Howdy mates, good afternoon. Here's the second video over at Greenville Falls. So there's a couple of other plants that I want to point out, actually. So the first one we're going to start with is the butterfly weed. And here it is. They have the distinguished orange flowers. What's neat about the butterfly weed is it is related to the other milkweeds, such as common milkweed or swamp milkweed, for example. However, a distinguishing characteristic of this flower is that it doesn't have that white sap on the inside like some other milkweeds. So that's one way that you can tell. And this is the only type of milkweed, or that falls within the family, that has orange flowers. But it's really neat. So there's actually a fancy term that's used when it comes to flowers. It's called a corolla. A corolla, and trust me, corolla not referring to Toyota. But a corolla is basically a bundle of petals, essentially. It can create a variety of shapes. It could be like a shape of a cup, for example. Or even or not just a cup, but a grail. I mean, you can use your imagination. But it's like when I look at the flower itself, it reminds me of just looking at, a tower, for instance, you know what I mean? Or a torch, like the Statue of Liberty. So you figure it has this part up here, but the corolla also reflexes, backwards too. So it's a really neat type of plant right here. However, though, you don't want to eat this plant in high quantities, because it actually can be toxic. It can cause particular symptoms such as vomiting or even diarrhea. So you don't want to eat too much of this. And what's neat too is this was also known as the pleurisy plant. You may be thinking, what exactly is pleurisy? Well, it's a condition where the lining, the tissue that helps make up your lungs, gets inflamed. And so this particular flower, or should I say plant, the root would actually get extracted, and then it would help basically cure or relieve pleurisy. This was something that the Native Americans knew, and they used the root for such practice. So these also provide quite a benefit too. And also, even for the roots, you can even use them in tea as well, in the form of a diuretic. So they are indeed edible too, but as a diuretic, not directly. But yeah, that's the butterfly weed. And they like to also be in somewhat drained soil, and also they like to be around limestone as well, which makes sense because that's where we are directly above. And they also like partial shade. So you can tell part of it is in the sun, part of it is not. And actually, shout out goes to my cousin Heidi, who lives in Arkansas. I provide this shout out for you, Heidi, because I actually gave you a few seeds of the butterfly weed. So hope this video finds you well, cousin Heidi. You get to hear from your baby cousin. So now moving on, the next thing we want to look at is the Fragrant Sumac, which is right here. Rest assured, even though it looks similar to poison ivy, because you can see that it has 3 leaves here, just like that of poison ivy. It's actually not harmful whatsoever. I mean, I could like touch it if I want, whatever. It won't cause any harm. And it's not the same as poison sumac either. But the point is, you know, a difference that you can tell apart from poison sumac and poison ivy and then the fragrant sumac is the first 2 that I mentioned, they will climb, as in like a vine. Unlike the fragrant sumac, this is a well-known shrub that is found in Ohio or even the Midwest. So it'll just be at the edge of a forest, for instance, and it won't act like a vine just because it is just a shrub. It's also deciduous too, so it will lose its leaves. I believe this is the type of shrub too, where you'll see the flowers first, and then you'll start seeing the product, or the fruit per se. Because then they actually produce these little red, like, berries that you can see. Now, in terms of whether it's actually edible for us, I'm not entirely sure. I believe it has been used for medicinal purpose, but it's usually much more preferred among wildlife. You know, our fellow homies. They love to feed on these. And these can even last up to the winter, too. It's a great food source. It's excellent. But yeah, this is the fragrant sumac. But yeah, you can just see like little hairs that come out of the berries themselves. But that's something I'll have to clarify as to whether we can actually eat these or not. It's quite neat. But yeah, they're a well-known shrub found in these parts. So alrighty, I want to provide you guys one more little view, and then that should about wrap up the video. Give me just a second. Alrighty, now we're up on the observation deck, where we actually get to overlook the falls too. And I know that I've done videos in the past of this particular perspective, but you can see that the discharge is moderate right now, because we did have a recent rain where it was flooding, basically, very active. So, yeah, I would say it's about moderate right now. I would say you can still walk on it, but with caution. I'm mostly still going to. But yeah, I never get enough of this place. It's another home away from home. So, alrighty. Hey, I thought I would share that with you guys. Hope you gained some insight from the video pertaining to the butterfly weed and the fragrant sumac. And I also forgot to mention that fragrant sumac, as it approaches into fall, their leaves, they actually produce like a reddish-orange color. So they're very conspicuous during the fall time. So that wraps it up, and enjoy your Tuesday. And once again, Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks.